Hello, my name's Felix Jones, or if you're incredibly old, you might remember me as Lego Cheetah. Um, Hi, I am here again. I have been away for a good while, and a couple of years on, I've had new ideas I want to be able to share with people, and I want to be able to talk about them, and this is my first opportunity to do that. This is sort of my test pilot. So I'm going to share with you a couple of ideas. I'd like to read to you a piece that I wrote about 2 years ago, about the same time as I released my last video. And I've been doing a lot of thinking since then, so I've got a lot of similar sort of stuff to talk about. And this is just some thoughts I've wanted to share with the world for a while now. And afterwards, I'd like to talk to you about why exactly I've decided to do this and what exactly the context is going to be. But first, a bit of backstory on this piece of writing in particular. It's a piece about love and time, and I wrote it about my pet rats who had died about 6 months before I wrote the piece, and they lived good lives. But I, felt that I wanted to. This just sort of was something that came up in a way that, like, I hadn't acknowledged it before, and I came to terms with a few things, and so I wanted to be able to share this with people. So, I also dreamt of the rats again recently, dreaming I had accidentally lost them from some coat pocket to the chaos of a city in some public space. This is the second time I've had a dream of losing them, but the first since their deaths. The realization coming too that they were safe from the horrible fate that my subconscious had cooked up for them but then that was only by virtue of them being dead, was kind of a strange realization. I mean, I was relieved at the idea of them escaping pain. I knew retroactively that they were happy until they stopped being able to be. The pain of loss still remained, though. I couldn't really be happy because I would never be able to reassure them anew how I loved them and would keep them safe. I saved them for as long as I could, and they will always have been saved. It's a shame I stepped into a dream that wasn't as joyous as it could have been. Because I was stepping into a fantasy, indulging in the idea of them being animated again, capable again of experiencing pleasure and pain. There could not have been one without the other, of course. I achieved a victory in life, but the effort lasted as long as the reward. Life is the only trophy you cherish until you win the race. That is, if you do win the race. This kind of fourth-dimensional thinking reminds me of an idea that I had around the time about a drug that could be capable of affecting you before you took it. How could it function but with totally inescapable consequences of a thought unyet conceived? I would be coming up because soon I would decide to get high. Just as I loved because someday loss would give it purpose. It's one of the only places in my life that forethought ever actually occurs. It seems one of my greatest motivators is setting myself up for a fall. Like the experience of being on a roller coaster and climbing towards the peak wouldn't actually mean anything if it weren't for the fact that there is then the drop and fall afterwards. Nobody considers that to be the best part, or maybe it is the best part, but it would mean nothing without the conclusion. We think with means to an end, but investment and love and loss and death are means to my end that comes at the end. I'm not sure exactly how best to articulate this thought, but to think one of my favourite emotions is one that contradicts all other logical thoughts about time is a pleasant one and also a painful one. To quote Doc Brown from Back to the Future, travelling through time is just too painful. In this thought of a love as a fourth dimensional art piece, where past and future feed into each other in overlapping causal strings, I see a painting of ecstatic beauty, where hope and joy and fear reach forward and loss and pain come back, holding each other in place, linked at both ends in a Morbius strip of time and emotion. Nothing functions in the human brain so ambivalently, I don't think, and it is all just an intellectualized version of this instinctual primordial drive that we have. I would castrate myself before writing the words "love transcends death", particularly since that is usually used to place ill-founded divinity on mutual loves or unrequited loves or anything along those lines. I mean, mutual divinity on love at all. But somewhere in that painting, I know death and loss must fall, but it needn't be thought of as an event. It is the glue linking the strip, creating the chain. This is why life needs narrative or emotion as well as logic, and why we must experience time this way. Which side of loss we stand on is the only way to know if we are coming or going. That dream shook up that balance, but the skipping track helped me remember how the record plays. So, I wish myself good night, Kurt and Zuko, prisoners of my psyche. May you have always known that I was never going to let you go. You started the loop and I will never stop riding it back round, stretching it out, because the whole time I had you, for better or worse, I was always going to be now, loving back towards you, so I could keep you then, and protect and cultivate my budding pain. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because I feel like something that's commonly misinterpreted about loss is that it's like an exclusively negative emotion, whereas I think any emotion can be seen as having both positive and negative aspects, and quite in particular when it comes to love and loss, because when one experiences loss, one is experiencing the evidence of having invested in life. And to not invest in life is to do nothing. If we don't put value into something that we exist within, then we would simply never perform any action. I would have no reason to get out of bed in the morning if I wasn't investing in the adventure that something good might happen to me over the course of the day. So at least in any moment that you experience loss, you are being reminded of the fact that you actually had value in your life. You had something that you cherished, and at the same rate, every time you feel happy, there is a sad element in that. You know, the reason why things make you happy is because they're finite and they won't last forever. But that's what gives them value, and I don't think that's something to be afraid of. I think that's something to be embraced, and especially when it comes to thinking about how we act upon the relationships that we exist in at the moment. Like when I actually wrote this piece, I wrote a text to my friend like immediately afterwards, saying that, well, I just had to text him to tell him that I loved him because I was feeling, in such a fashion. But also, the point was, as I said to him, is that it's not just about the statement as it exists at the time, but also kind of a promise or just a recognition of the fact that somewhere in the future there lies some devastated man who wishes that he could send that same message backwards through time to the person who he's lost, or who he may lose, or may lose him. So yeah, I think there's a positivity to be found in that, and that's something that we should all try and explore in our day-to-day lives, is expressing emotion whilst we have the opportunity, and especially doing it sincerely and immediately. I find there's lots of different subjects I'm going to be talking about. I probably won't get onto the subject of sincerity right now. Oh, screw it, why not? I'll quickly say my opinion on sincerity is it's a very hard thing to do. It's quite automatic in day-to-day life that we sort of speak in patterns, and we speak in certain ways that we're taught how to speak, and gut reactions, and try and sort of pacify instability when it arises in the form of people being emotionally excited or upset or distressed about something. You just kind of want to pacify them, and so you'll use the lines that pacify people, which is something that happens quite a lot during relationships, that kind of thing. Whereas when you push through that, you achieve something much greater. I consider like sincerity to be, it's like walking through a path of your life, and in this path you keep seeing these stones in the way that you think that you need to step over, and then you'll eventually get back onto the path that you were originally going on. But if you put your foot through that stone, if you punch through it, you find that it's just an illusion, and that underneath is the actual path of the life that you want to live, the life of sincerity and the life of actual expression, and knowing what you want and being capable of saying it without being ashamed of yourself. That's something that's really hard to achieve, and so it's something that I think people should go on to. Anyway, that's me extending this out longer than it really needs to be, because I'm talking about another subject. Basically, the point is, though, in me talking about multiple subjects, that I intend to be doing a lot of this kind of talking at the moment. I'm actually going to be going back to doing my reviews as usual, I hope, although they're going to be considerably different. With this pilot, I'm also testing that, and also I'd be wanting to share more philosophical thoughts with you, because I've been spending when you last saw me, I was reading Doctor Who and philosophy. These days I'm reading Plato and Aristotle, and Eric Fromm, and it's not that it's all about what I'm reading. It's about the fact that I'm sort of coming to terms with new ideas, and I kind of want to be able to share them with people. And they're not necessarily all completely original ideas, because basically you usually end up finding that somebody somewhere has covered some version of the idea that you wanted to talk about. But but the thing is, I do love philosophy, but I also am really not big on the whole essay writing process. So I realised that there's two kinds of people who can do philosophy without having to do all the research, and that's poets and stand-up comedians. And I think I'm going for something in between those two. So that's kind of what I'm going to try and do in this in this series, which I'm going to call Felix's Philosophy, just because it sounds nice. I did have something else I wanted to say quickly. It was that hopefully I can just be here to pass on some positive ideas to people. And it's a trying time, so obviously life is trying in general, but don't get me onto that. Oh yeah, I was going to say apologies about if you hear train sounds in the background. This is a new setup as well. That's the other reason why I'm testing this all out. I've got new lighting gear, I've got new microphone, and I want to make sure that everything's working all right. But obviously, if there's any faults, please do be forgiving. And also, if anything has taught us about during lockdown, it's that I think we could probably get used to watching pretty awful quality video footage. I'm hoping people will be considerably less fussy these days. So that's about all I have to say for now. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed that, credit to my friend Callum Sykes for the time lapse. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description, because he does lots of time lapses like that, and it's a really fantastic, just a really fantastic source of art. Like, there's something great about watching time lapses of stars going around the planet, because you can see the curvature of the Earth, all that business. Anyway. So thank you for watching. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that we're going to see each other again very soon.